are these people?
This is just an interesting and short poem that I thought was really different, that no one else really has seen yet. It's by someone, I don't even remember how it showed up in my feed. It was linked in a response to somebody else. And I was like, that's actually a really fucking poem. It mentions a lot of people and a lot of themes that we talk about, and we don't get to bring stuff like that often enough. I know we featured the poem like They Shoot Horses, Don't They? And I actually connected with the author and the poet that wrote that. We, of course, have our resident poet, Jesse Jett, here at INN. And I know that Steve over at AM Wake Up will ban you from this and all known irrevocable universes irrevocably, permanently, if you assault him with unsolicited poetry. But here, I'm going to do something a little different. So hopefully our friend at the Independent Review won't clip this one, so I don't get banned permanently over there. But this is the poem that I wanted to read and show. You know what? Let's do it on the other screen. Stenographers to Power. All right, by a man by the name of Dave Peck. He's just Dave Substack. It's Dave D-E-E-E, 3 E's, Dave D. Peck .substack.com. All right, and again,
coming to a Substack newsletter near you.
That's right. So, his poem reads, a principle of democracy that is truly paramount is that those in power should be held to account. We need journalists to scrutinize what leaders are doing and to report on any misdeeds or trouble that's brewing. But the mighty U.S. government grew mightily scared when the news from Iraq by WikiLeaks was shared. They didn't want their war crimes in public arena. They couldn't tolerate a journalist with such a demeanor. The U.S. set its lawyers to work on getting Assange indicted, told the U.K. to lock him up and then to have him extradited. The Guardian embraced Assange and published many a story, with one scoop after another that they could bask in the glory. But when the U.S. decided that Assange was their foe, the paper quickly dropped him like a hot potato. Mainstream journalists won't risk their careers turning sour. They toe the establishment line as stenographers to power. On the Court of Justice ruling, there's agreement worldwide. Israel's occupation is illegal, and they're committing genocide. But Starmer stands with Israel and claims the UK does too. He thinks that he's our PM. He can speak for me and you. In Britain, 3/4 of us want a ceasefire today, although the truth is hard for us to find in any which way, because our mainstream journalists are a spineless shower who care not for the truth. They're just stenographers to power. Abuse of terrorism laws is a chilling sign of the times. Police target journalists who do report on Israel's war crimes. They detained Craig Murray and seized his laptop and phone. They were waiting for Richard Medhurst when he flew back home. Sarah Wilkinson's home was left looking like she'd had a break-in, and she and Asa Winstanley both had all their devices taken. These independent journalists tell the truth and refuse to cower, but there's no sign of solidarity from the stenographers to power. The journalists who live in Gaza are the world's bravest, where Israelis regard a press vest as a target on your chest. To prevent the truth about the genocide from being spread, they are trying to make sure that all the journalists are dead. They shot Mohammed al-Salhi in central Gaza back on day 1 and killed 140 by the time the year was done. Their deaths went unreported in our papers on TV NewsHour. There's no respect for martyred colleagues from stenographers to power. Good stuff. Very good stuff. And I guess that brings us to the beginning of our Fuck Israel segment. All right. So let's throw it out there now. We got Carlos Latuff. If you haven't followed him yet, what are you doing? At Latuff Cartoons. He drew 2 cartoons this week that basically said it all. And right now the ship just got boarded, and they've now arrested / kidnapped the people that were on there. They're in international waters on their way to Gaza, unarmed, with diapers, and to become a single point of distribution, which is already set up to be a nightmare. And of course, they've been intercepted by Israel. So this shows the shark that Israel is intercepting the boat bound for Gaza. The other one I thought was even more powerful, which shows the IOF soldier, guns pointed at the children inside, screaming, "Any closer and you're next," at the boat. So, this is what's going on right now, fam. Fuck Israel.
Yep.
All right. Because remember,
How dare you?
Remember, it's not about Hamas, because an Israeli strike on Christian-run hospital in Gaza kills another 4 journalists. This was 3 days ago by our friend and Indie Media Award honoree Dave DeCamp from Antiwar.com, also Indie Media Award honoree. On Thursday, Israeli forces struck the courtyard of the Al-Ahi Arab Baptist Hospital in Gaza City, killing 4 journalists and at least 2 other civilians. The hospital is run by the Episcopal Diocese of Jerusalem, which strongly condemned the attack in a statement that was released before a 4th journalist was declared dead. Quote, this morning at about 10:20 a.m. local time, Israeli forces fired inside the compound of our Al-Ahi Adley hospital in Gaza City, killing 3 journalists as well as 2 others, including a father who was escorting his son to our surgical unit for treatment from previous injuries. In addition, this unprovoked assault against civilians wounded 30 other bystanders, among them 4 of our hospital staff. Of course, that was also part of Israel's intent. They love to murder and injure hospital staff.
Yep.
The diocese said that it condemned the attack in the strongest possible terms and called on the international community to enforce Israel's adherence to the 4th Geneva Convention with respect to its provisions.
What fucking international community? Where the fuck is it?
Mm-hmm.
Huh? Where
Okay,
the fuck is it?
It's supposed to have special protections for hospitals, medical personnel, journalists, and civilians in general. It's nice of the diocese to notice or to say something now. Okay, again, Dave says, according to Middle East Eye, the 4 slain journalists have been identified as Suleiman Hajjaj and photographer Ismail Badah, who both worked for Palestine Today TV. Photographer Samir Al-Rifai, who worked for Shams news agency, and the photojournalist and video editor Motaz Mohammed Rajab, who worked for Quds Al-Yum TV. I think I actually followed Motaz Rajab on Twitter. Sources told Middle East Eye that the strike hit the hospital courtyard while media workers were gathered there, and that no one had prior warning of the bombing, as was the intent. According to the Palestinian Journalists Syndicate, the massacre brings the total number of Palestinian journalists murdered by Israeli forces since October 2023 to 225. The PJS said in a statement that it condemned Israel's continued systematic policy of targeting and killing journalists and committing successive massacres against them and their families, unquote. Another strongly worded letter, but they don't have bombs to fight back. I mean, what are they supposed to do? They're running for their lives. But I didn't just have one fuck Israel war crime story this week from Gaza. There's another one also from Beirut, and this is another anti-war story, Indie Media Award honoree. But this one was from Jason Ditz, who I am not familiar with. So let's tear into this one. Israel pounds southern Beirut following an evacuation order. Oh, at least they gave an order and told everyone to get out because we're going to bomb the shit out of this place. Although it's a residential neighborhood and they have no reason or right to bomb a sovereign country, Lebanon's capital city of Beirut is in shock tonight when massive explosions tore through the civilian neighborhood of Dahiyeh in the city's south as the result of a major Israeli attack. This is the first attack on Beirut in over a month. Okay, let's go back here. Israel issued an evacuation order in the evening, claiming that Hezbollah had an underground factory in the city. The attack came a few hours later after sunset, of course, while everybody's in their homes and asleep. Maximum people in there. Information is still coming in about what happened, but reportedly 8 buildings were hit in the targeted neighborhood, and later reports that there were more than a dozen strikes. It's not clear whether those are the same buildings that were cited in the evacuation warning. And since Israel was targeting an underground site, it's not even clear what the surface buildings were even the target in the first place. The secret tunnels, right? More secret tunnels.
Yay, secret tunnels.
Adding
spell things right.
Adding
secret tunnel.
Secret tunnel.
Yeah, secret tunnel.
Adding to the questions which have yet to be answered are reports that Lebanese army forces entered the buildings identified by Israel before the strike, probably to make sure that their citizens were out and weren't going to be killed. It's neither clear if the army was present when the strikes began or whether those buildings ended up being hit at all. But it could potentially add to the seriousness of the matter. There are still no confirmations of casualties, which is weird. People reported that there were substantial traffic jams in Dahiyeh as everyone moved to try to evacuate before the strike, naturally. It may well reduce the likelihood of civilian casualties, though again, we don't yet have word of what hit the buildings or what the hit buildings were, or whether anyone was left within them. Israel claimed the existence of the alleged underground site was a ceasefire violation, but it has yet to be established that there actually was such a site there. Trust me, bro. And moreover, it's not clear from the terms of the ceasefire that Hezbollah wouldn't have been allowed to have an underground facility in Beirut, which is far north of the Litani River boundary that they're supposed to be removed from. Defense Minister Defense Minister Israel Katz said that Israel would not allow anyone to create threats to Israel. That's nice and vague.
Whatever.
Though Hezbollah has not actually attacked Israeli territory a single time since the ceasefire went into effect in November, so the timing of this attack is odd to say the least, or maybe not so much at all. Adding to the timing...
Congratulations, Israel.
Congratulations on being the world's biggest bitch.
Yeah. Well, they're also the world's biggest douche. All right.
Yes.
So that's a pretty good accomplishment there to be both. Adding to the timing is the question that the attack came roughly around sunset, meaning the important religious feast of Eid al-Adha had just begun. Thursday marked the Yom Arafah, a very important holiday where Muslims who do not go to Mecca that year generally fast. All right. Sunset marks the end of the fast and the beginning of the feast. An Israeli strike roughly coincided with that because, God forbid, any of them are allowed to eat ever. They want to starve all of the Muslim population, apparently. But not just the Muslims, because remember, Adley Hospital is a Christian hospital.
Yep.
Though Hezbollah's violation of the ceasefire here is still up for dispute, Israel plainly isn't. And multiple Lebanese leaders issued statements condemning Israel's attack on the capital as a particularly flagrant violation. Israel has carried out thousands of attacks on Lebanese soil since the ceasefire went into effect, but attacking Beirut has been comparatively unusual. But all of them are still war crimes. Attacking a sovereign nation because you claimed that they were attacking you first, and then permanently setting up occupation in the southern half of that country is also a war crime. Yep. But what else is going to happen to them? Now, all right, I'm going to give a little bit of a warning here because this is a really graphic thing. And if you get triggered, by all means, I understand. Come back in a few minutes because this one's, oh boy. Mnar, who is the founder and editor-in-chief over at MintPress News, Indie Media Award honoree, had a guest on an American nurse on her podcast this week, MintCast, who described how he seen that Israeli soldiers are deliberately shooting boys in the penis. The IDF are shooting Palestinian boys in the junk so they will never be able to have children. They're neutering.
Are you fucking kidding me?
They're neutering a population. They are sterilizing the population to ensure that they cannot reproduce. But no genocide is happening, right? This isn't systematic ethnic cleansing, right? I can't even play this, but she says the scenes Willy Massay witnessed in Gaza were harrowing. Children shot multiple times in the head, chest, and groin. Hospitals reduced to rubble. The smell of burning flesh and gunpowder lingering in the air. For the American ICU nurse recently returned from the besieged enclave, and thank God he's able to get back. Israel's assault on Gaza was not just war, it was deliberate, systematic extermination, which we've been saying from minute one. There you go. Now you can read these words a whole lot clearer. Massay had been on the front lines of the Israeli attack on the densely populated strip. Oh man, these people that stand on the front lines in order to patch up Palestinians that have been shot at and wounded. Just wow. Incredible people. So he's worked in Al-Aqsa, Nasser, and Indonesia hospitals, by the way, all of which have been bombed multiple times by Israel. He sat down.
Speaking of, where the fuck is Dr. Hossam? Where's he at?
Dr. Hossam Abu Shafir. That would be nice to know. He sat down with Mnar Adley to discuss his time in Palestine and the brutal realities of the assault, the Israeli assault. This is part 2 of that interview. He and other health professionals from all over the world risk their lives to save as many people as possible. These actions have made them a target. Israel's killed more than 1,400 healthcare workers. I remember they used to screech about 1,200 people killed on October 7th. What about the 1,400 healthcare workers they've murdered since October 7th? Every one of which is a war crime. IDF attacks have destroyed or damaged 33 of Gaza's 36 hospitals. It's an atrocity that humanity should never forget. Worse still, he noted, is that Israel blocks medical supplies from reaching the area, meaning that he and his colleagues must work even without basic instruments and drugs, anesthesia, penicillin, rubbing alcohol. Like, they want infection to spread.
Iodine. Yep.
We don't have gauze. We don't have anesthesia. We don't have antibiotics. No water. No electricity.
I think I heard they didn't even have bleach.
Yep. Israel, before every strike cuts off electricity, they're going to bomb you while you're in the dark, of course. Massay explained how this lack of electricity means life-saving machines are shut off, causing mass deaths. Ventilators, for example, stop working unless they have backup generators, and then they target the generators. And so he and his colleagues must bag patients, a process of connecting their respiratory systems to plastic bags which have to be pumped by hand day and night to keep oxygen flowing into these people's bodies. And as they pump, Israeli bombs fall on the hospital and bullets penetrate its walls. Oh, man, fuck Israel. These bombs are supplied by the United States, often at U.S. taxpayer expense, who footed the bill for more than $22 billion of aid to Tel Aviv since October 7th of 2023, making Washington an active participant in the destruction and extermination. Despite its rhetoric about slashing budgets, the Trump administration has shown few signs of limiting the aid flowing to Israel, even as international organizations label the campaign a genocide and call for boycotts and sanctions against Israel. Massay also chronicles a war against the children of Palestine. We've talked about this many times, noting how girls are dying of urinary tract infections because of the shortage of sanitary products, even tampons. Israeli soldiers, meanwhile, deliberately shoot boys in the junk in order to prevent them from ever being able to have children of their own. These are the stories you're not supposed to hear, which is why you're hearing them here. Because I don't give a fuck. These stories are going to get told here. These motherfuckers. And then they turn around and say that the Palestinian people are animals when they behave like that, committing deliberate war crimes on the regular. And again, Latuff's yeah, just as a reminder that Israel has boarded and seized a humanitarian ship of British flagship. So now Great Britain either has to have given permission for them to seize the people aboard it and stop it, or they have now committed a violation of international law that Britain now must respond to for having Israel stop and board one of their ships without permission? Holy shit, that's an act of war, isn't it? Last I remember it was. All right, and again, just remember who the IDF is mostly firing on at this point. It's women and children. There are at most 30,000 Hamas, admittedly, according to the IDF. That's after 2.5 years, or what is it, 20 months of dropping bombs on them, where they originally claimed that there were only 20,000 Hamas fighters. So somehow they've murdered or kidnapped or arrested most of the men there. And somehow there are 10,000 more Hamas fighters than there were. The maths don't math there, by the way. The maths ain't mathing.
What's up with that? What's up with that?
All right. I cannot say fuck Israel enough. Oh, wait, where's the other freaking story that I had, Gen X Girl had, that was incredible? All right, about, and I guess I'll bring it next week, about the Jewish Zionist terrorist that tried to firebomb the U.S. embassy in Tel Aviv, in Israel, because he has a grudge with Donald Trump. All right, that's a crazy fucking story that the media is burying because it doesn't fit the narrative. All right, it doesn't fit that someone to Trump's right, all right, someone who thinks that Trump isn't supporting Israel hard enough wants to punish the United States for not supporting it. He moved from Boulder, Colorado. Did something else happen in Boulder, Colorado in the last week or so? I don't remember. Was it like some kind of a quote unquote attack or a psyop of some kind? Yeah, I seem to recall that something did happen over there. Now, this guy happens to have been from Boulder, and he claims that his family owns one of the largest hotel chains in the country that competes with Trump, and that Trump has made his life miserable. He's now moved to Israel, and he's completely bought into, now it's his home and his country. This is an American Jewish Zionist who, again, the right of return, and we talked about the right of return in the past. Remember that Palestinians have no passport and have no rights to any land or anything at all when it comes to Israel or Palestine, according to Israel. However, an American Jew can get on a plane, fly to Israel, and be handed a parcel of land as part of what's up with that? Yes, as part
Jewish
of
rapscallion.
birthright, quote unquote. Although I renounce my birthright. I don't want it. Give it to a Palestinian person. But they won't do that, of course. That's not part of the rules. Just like when they were selling off the properties for the Gaza waterfront in Toronto and in Teaneck, New Jersey, and in Los Angeles suburbs, they were not allowing anyone to purchase it on behalf of a Palestinian family. How nice. They created those rules too. Again, fuck Israel. So we're not going to be remonetized for segments like that. And if you are able to, and you do like the media and you want to support the media that you want to see, and that's us, you can drop us a couple of bucks over at Cash App, $, Indie News Network, $5-10. You can give us $5 or $10 over at co-fi.com/Indie News Network, or any amount. You can go to paypal.me/Indie News Network, any amount that you want there. You can also go to innnewsletter.com. That's where our daily and weekly newsletters go out, as well as some of the podcasts for the individual shows after we stream them live on Substack, which, by the way, we are live on Substack. Good evening, Substack. If you're watching and hanging out, thank you for hanging out.
Newsletter near you.
I did have the chat open at one point. I don't know what happened to it, but all right.
Sorry, but Rachel Maddow's death will just have to come as a pleasant surprise to me.
It would be. Well, I'm not gonna in a video game, right? In a video game. All right. So, good evening to our Substack fam. Good evening over on Odyssey. We're live on Odyssey. I see that Raw Meat Herd is over there. So good to see you over there, fam. I saw Lone Star checking in earlier. We got Ghost Start and Possum Kings over on Rumble. We've got people hanging out and chatting over on YouTube. We got people over on Kick as well. Kick.com/Indie News Network. That's another place that we stream live. We are live to 8 platforms on Sunday nights. Support independent media. We need it more than ever. Love you.
Bye-bye!
We go party.
No! We just fucking lost the stream.
You can't keep giving us nothing and think we're bluffing about coming for your heads. Why play civil if you won't listen? 50,000 died, and now we know our mission. We form a militia, make Congress a prison.